This is the recording to part 1 of our 2-part virtual storytelling series in 2024. This series highlights the lived experiences and stories of newcomer early childhood educators from across Atlantic Canada. On our website, you will be able to find the storytelling lens that can support you in listening to these stories.
Bienvenue, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us here today for our storytelling session focused on promoting equity in early childhood across Atlantic Canada. My name is Jessie Lee McIsaac. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of the Early Childhood Collaborative Research Center and a Canada Research Chair in Early Childhood, and I'm a faculty member in Education and Child and Youth Study here at Mount St. Vincent University. I would like to begin our time today by respectfully acknowledging the land in which we are gathered for this storytelling series. Wabanaki is a Mi'kmaq term that describes where the sun rises first, or the dawn land, and one that describes the eastern location of the work that will be highlighted today in Turtle Island. I am joining you from Chibuktuk, part of Mi'kma'ki, the unceded ancestral territory which remains the homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. This territory is covered by the covenant chain of treaties of peace and friendship signed between 1725 and 1779. These treaties are affirmed by the Supreme Court of Canada and recognize Aboriginal title. We are all treaty people and have a responsibility to uphold these treaties through relationships of peace and friendship. In our seminar today, we will highlight stories from the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq and the Beothuk, and as conveners of this storytelling series, we acknowledge these territories to pay respect to the knowledge embedded in the Indigenous custodians of the lands and waters, and to the elders past, present, and future. And as we gather today during Mi'kmaq History Month, I'm also reflecting upon the 4 core Mi'kmaq values of respect, responsibility, relationship, and reciprocity in working together. Story sharing within communities can be a powerful way to build connections with each other. And as we begin these conversations, we invite you to consider these core values and how we come together to support young children and their families across the Wabanaki region of Turtle Island. Thank you for being with us here today. So just a brief agenda for today's session. And for storytellers, we made just a slight adjustment in the order. We have 5 storytellers with us today, and that is really going to take the large majority of our time. I'm going to give a few brief remarks, just set some context for our conversation, but then we will really launch into the heart of our conversations. We are going to end today's session with a question period that we will facilitate with our storytellers, and we're really excited to have that opportunity for you to ask questions to the storytellers. And then we will close with just a few remarks from me and next steps. And as we're all familiar, in 2022 and 2023, across Canada, the provincial, territorial, and federal early learning and childcare agreements brought heightened attention on early childhood and has really accelerated efforts to scale up initiatives to increase accessibility and affordability of childcare. And at the same time, there's been an intense focus on the importance of the early childhood workforce, and our collaborative network has identified a need to, at the same time, leverage our collective efforts to ensure that we keep equity at the forefront. Equity in early childhood practice means thoughtful consideration of the whole family and the child and their local community, and thinking about how we can tailor support based on intersectional strengths and needs. It means embracing principles of fairness and justice and working to eliminate structural inequities that limit learning opportunities of families and children across equity-deserving communities. It also means ensuring early childhood professionals are supported and have a sense of belonging and cultural safety in their practice. And so with this in mind, in 2023, we held a 3-part seminar series focused on stories of equity across the Atlantic region, and those are the 3 in the middle there, with a focus on accessibility, inclusion, culturally responsive practice, and anti-oppression. And then in fall of last year, we brought folks together from across the region here in Halifax for some conversation and further planning of how to sustain the network. Together, we developed a vision for the Peace Hub, promoting equity in early childhood, where we are committed to advancing the co-creation of knowledge regarding how equity in early learning and childcare is understood, supported, and practice throughout the Atlantic region. And with support from our network, we have a proposal that is being submitted this week to the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council to realize this vision for us. And a sneak peek, these are some of what the Peace Hub will offer across the Atlantic region. This is a web mock-up that highlights the website resources, virtual and in-person professional learning and networking opportunities, and a concerted effort to enhance communication for us working in Atlantic region in early childhood with an effort to really focus on collaboration. So more to come on this as we hear the results. These initiatives would not have been possible without the support of partners from across the Atlantic region, many of whom are joining with us today. Thank you to those of us joining that are a part of this network for your collaboration and commitment to work together. And I also just want to take a moment to acknowledge the ongoing support from the Margaret and Wallace McKean Family Foundation, which continues to provide funding to maintain our network conversation until we hear this news about future funding. So this fall, we're holding this seminar series in a two-part session. And today is part one of part two, to focus on the critical topics to supporting early childhood among newcomers in the Atlantic region. And one of the reasons why we're focusing on this Atlantic Canadian network is because of the similarity in our community context. We've all seen increases in our overall population and also in the diversity of our residents. And in recent years, there's been an increase in the number of immigrants and newcomers who've chosen to live, learn, and play in Atlantic Canada. As our Canada-wide early learning and childcare agreements are rolled out, we're also seeing increased pressure in the workforce. With this labor gap in early childhood, more newcomers and immigrants are coming to Atlantic Canada through early childhood pathways, and this has led to increased diversity in our workforce in early childhood. But there's a gap in our understanding of how to support newcomer early childhood educators working in early learning and childcare settings. And we also need to find ways to continue to celebrate the diversity that newcomer early childhood educators bring to our programs through their diverse lived experiences and the multicultural lens that they bring that creates a sense of belonging for families and children and meaningful learning opportunities. So today, to launch into our stories that will be shared, we are so excited to highlight 5 unique and diverse stories of newcomer early childhood educators across the Atlantic region. I'm going to introduce each of the storytellers just before they take the stage, but these are the stories that we've shared, and you can see where they're located in the Atlantic region and the story title as well. So thank you so much, storytellers, for bringing forward your generosity of experience, providing your time, and sharing your knowledge with us. So as we begin this session today, I invite you to find the listening lens that Janice sent to you this morning as a way of reflecting upon the stories that are shared. We also encourage you in the storytelling to consider and interrogate the colonial systems that influence inequity and the ways that we can move forward together through reconciliation and meaningful partnership with our Indigenous communities. And as mentioned, after the storytelling session, we hope you stay for a discussion with our storytellers. So without further ado, we are going to launch into our storytelling. And first up, we have Camila. Camila's story is Communication Without Borders. And Camila describes herself as a Brazilian educator and that has worked in early childhood for over 20 years. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. Camila, thank you so much for bringing the first storyteller with us today. And we look forward to hearing your story.
Hello, thank you for giving me the space and the time to share a little bit about my experience here. My name is Camila. I'm from Brazil. I started learning English when I was 7 years old, and I always loved to talk since a young age. My grandfather was nonverbal due to a stroke, but I remember having the most amazing conversations with him and learning a lot. My family would be mesmerized by it, and I was commenting how I was able to communicate with someone that was nonverbal, but communication is way more than just words. Communication is my thing. I went on to get a bachelor's degree in communications and learning other language besides Portuguese, my native, and English. I know Spanish, I'm learning French, some Italian, and a few words from Mandarin and Ukrainian. due to my workplace. I'm very happy to be working in such multicultural environment, not only with children all over the world, but their families and work colleagues. Naturally, to me, the way that I was able to bring more equity was to use all these languages that I speak and my talkative ways to connect with the children, the families, and my other co-workers. So one day I arrived at my room and there was a little girl from Chile, the most gorgeous little girl I have ever seen. We connected instantly. And when I saw that she would be way more comfortable with me once she started listening Spanish words, that brought up a little light on me that I could use this part of my life in communications to bring this difference that we have to make it smaller, to meet them halfway. And as soon as the mom heard me speaking Spanish, she approached me to speak Spanish with me too. And I learned that she was in Canada and that the husband was the main English speaker. And as soon as she learned that she could speak Spanish with me, she felt way more comfortable because she knew she would have someone that would bring a little bit of home, as she said, to her child and to herself, because we then start to create an amazing connection, and she was able to understand a little bit more of the culture in Canada due to these communications that were not seeing any borders, right? She was able to understand more of her child's day to day. And that I used with many other children, even those that I do not speak the language, but I went on to search a few words and expressions that not only the family you use, but the child on their day-to-day, to try to minimize this difference in our communications. The communication can be a huge challenge, not just for a newcomer, but in our day-to-day, even for those that speak their first language is the same. So I really thought that that part could be minimized by it. I believe that communication can be also nonverbal, as I mentioned in the beginning. And with the children that I care on the day-to-day, they are only 2 or 3 years old. So it's also really important to observe the whole behavior that the child have, not only the words that come out of them, obviously. Some of them will have different behaviors due to their backgrounds. They would have toys brought from home that are not as usual as the toy that the other children will bring. So I try to make up, not as a mission, but as an important point to the other children to be really open with that difference in their day-to-day, and to explain a little bit, just like we were about the Canadian culture, to explain to the newcomers, but also each one of their cultures inside the class to one another. For the children to be more open with their colleagues and to understand, they have a lot of curiosity during eating time, because the food can be really different between them, but also between the families, to understand that we are including some activities on their day-to-day that's not only from Canadians, but with the other, from where the other children are coming from. Yeah, so that's the part that I'm trying to minimize, the communication part. I thought actually I was gonna get Jessie like the Oscar with a song here saying that I was talking too much and that I ended up cutting a lot. Yeah, I think it's okay, Jessie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Camila, for sharing your story. We really appreciate it. Okay, thank you, Camila. And next up, we have Cynthia. So Cynthia's story title is Your Culture Empowers Your Practice. And Cynthia's a passionate ECE by profession, originally from Chile, with over 15 years of experience. So welcome, Camila, to the virtual stage, and I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I am just so honored to be sharing this space here with all of you. Thank you for your interest in this part of the seminar. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to share our stories and also learn from others. To build these connections with everybody. So appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to the team for this space for all of us. My name is Cynthia, as Jessie just introduced me. I am originally from Chile. I have been here in Nova Scotia for the last almost 6 years. It's going to be 6 years next month in November. I don't know how that happened. Time flies. It just was like a blink of an eye for me and my family. My story as an EC started many months ago back in Chile. It's always been my passion working with early years and making those connections with families. So yeah, I started working in there for 12 years in a school as an educator in the classroom, but also as an academic coordinator. But life sometimes says, no, it's going to be different now. So we moved to Canada as the family of an international student, right? My husband was an international student when we just arrived here. I had an open work permit because of that. And for sure, my goal in that time was coming back into my field. But as a newcomer, my expectations were not that high at the very beginning, right? I was like, well, I might need to start making those connections. Maybe who knows what's going to happen. I might need to go and integrate myself into a different field at the beginning, having realistic expectations about an unknown field in a different culture, a different country, a different language, and with all those fears at the beginning about we go here into the unknown, we don't know what's going to happen, but everything was wonderful for us. We were very welcomed into this community. We landed in the beautiful Annapolis Valley, which has, because of the Acadia University, maybe a lot of cultural diversity. There's a lot of multicultural experiences around, and I think that was something that helped us from the beginning. And here I started surprisingly being in the field, because when looking for a spot for my son, by that time he was like almost 4 years old, ran into a daycare, had conversations in there, the Wellfield Children's Center, offered me a position as an ECE. To me was like, wow, of course, that's my passion. That's something that I love to do. But the beginning of my story as an ECE here was very challenging at the same time, right? In my mind, I think I was convinced that I needed to adapt to the culture very easily, very quickly, as fast as I could, learning the new songs, stories that I didn't know, trying to make those connections with families and children, trying to involve myself and camouflage myself into the Canadian culture without realizing that I was wrong. Right. So I strived to learn about the curriculum framework and researching here and there the best resources that I could use in my classroom. I had very generous coworkers and a working environment overall that supported me through that first steps. But I was wrong. I was wrong. I didn't need it to forget or put aside my own culture, my own language, my old traditions, and my own background. I realized with the support of my working environment that was me. I just needed to be me. Right? It was okay to be different. It was indeed enriching the learning environment for children and making those connections with them was a game changer, right? So I remember one day someone told me like, but instead of learning those new songs, why don't you sing in your own language? Why don't you say buenos dias instead of good morning? That was in my mind. Oh, you are right. A game changer for my practice. That's why my story it is. Your culture empowers your practice. That allowed me just to be me, right? And put in practice all the experience that I had from my past 12 years in the field, allowing me not only to make more relevant and meaningful connections with children, but also with those families around that, just like me, were newcomer to the areas, some of them with very little English or nothing at all, being able to communicate with me in their own language was for them as families the only way to learn about how was that day for that specific child, right? Cynthia, I need to ask you because I can communicate and you can let me know what about this process? What do I need to know? How was the day for my children? And that is something super relevant when you are new to an area and you don't know how to move yourself, how to navigate yourself with a new environment, right? So that was beautiful to realize, and I think that the supporting working environment was a key in there. In the specific and very concrete things or examples that I could mention, it was a wonderful feeling to have in the morning from your coworkers or director like buenos dias, Cynthia, instead of a good morning. You really feel like you belong, right? You're important. You really feel like you're part of and you're welcome, not only in the paper or the philosophy of diversity and inclusion, but also in very concrete little things, right? That it doesn't take a lot of things. Or labeling the classroom, for example, with the routine in English, but also in Spanish, slowly with the time. I think that that working place opened the doors to other more diverse ways of having people working in there. So started to be more multicultural with representation of educators from other part of the world. So I had like a Brazilian coworker as well, a coworker from Syria, and that just opened the connection with many, many families around. And that's in the classroom. Other support that as an early childhood I had at the beginning that really empowers me was about classification, right? That's a process that for many of us as newcomers is unknown, is new. We don't really know how to navigate ourselves with the paperwork or who to reach out, how to align your credentials with the classification levels here in Nova Scotia. And I know that even is different for many provinces around the country, but especially when you have to navigate yourself on those new topics, it's very helpful as well. So that's how my journey started. Then life opened another opportunity to me. And nowadays, in my role as faculty for the Nova Scotia Community College, I include and I try to include those lenses of diversity, equity, and inclusion in my classroom and my content, supporting also learners in incorporating and realizing that these connections are not only something that will support them as learners, but through the inclusion of these lenses, the support will also reach children and families around many communities. As you, Jessie, were saying at the beginning of this session, immigration is a topic right now, right? Immigration is increasing. So we will find, and we do find nowadays, many families that are multicultural, incorporating those lenses, traditions, cultures, support, and understanding became so relevant nowadays, right? So thank you for having me. Appreciate the time, appreciate the opportunity, and was lovely sharing my story with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That was beautiful. All right. So we're just going to keep going through our stories. Next, we have Omobosola, who is going to share her story. Her story title is A Vision for the Future. Omobosola, she also refers to herself as Miss B and is an ECE based in St. John's, Newfoundland. And Omobosola, I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here this morning. Or good afternoon to anyone who is in another part of the world that are watching us today. My name is Omobosola Lasisi, and I moved into Newfoundland in 2016 due to my husband's job as an engineer in oil field company. So we've lived in so many countries of the world, and we decided to retire here. My husband decided to retire here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And at that point, our 4 children are in the university, most especially our first daughter that is still doing a PhD and was funded by Rotary Club. So we are asked to stay here. So not before long, my husband got retired. So to start my story, it started from my father, because my father was a teacher. When I was 5 years old, I decided to become a teacher because I was growing up with my father's student. And at later in my life, when I was in high school, my principal got to be my father's student. And she came into my room one day to teach us mathematics. And she pointed to me, "What is parallel line?" I said, "No, I don't know it." She walked up to me, said, "Your teacher was one of the key person in my life that trained me. I was growing up with you in your house, and look at me today to be your principal. Your father was one of them. So I'm giving you a chance to go tomorrow, learn what parallel line is, and you come back to my office tomorrow to let me know." So in the second day, I knocked at the door of her room because I couldn't sleep overnight. I was learning what parallel lines is, what parallel lines. But I knocked the door of her office. "A good morning, ma'am. Parallel lines is a line that can never meet, no matter how far they are extended." She hugged me and said, "Now you're coming. Go to the staff room, go and tell to all the teachers. And even when you get to your room, tell every student in your room." And that really taught me a lesson that, okay, so if my father can do it, I will do it as well. But moving on, following my husband from one country to the other, I was able to volunteer to teach people, to teach children especially. Even it got to a point that I was teaching the grandparents. When we moved in here, I was giving out furniture in my house. So I met a man when I was going to school. Well, before I went to school, when we came in here, my children are all in the university. I needed to upgrade myself to learn the culture, to go back to my profession. So I went to CNA to do ECE. I was told that the ECE program was not for international students. I was disappointed. I went to Academic Canada. They told me they don't have ECE program, but I can do therapeutic recreation, which I target. I did therapeutic recreation, and that gave me opportunity to be in line with what I really want to do here. So later on, I did my ECE, and I'm working with children in preschool room. But there was a day I was giving my furniture out, and the man came with a young man that helped me to get the U-Haul and to drive the U-Haul. So when they came in there, the young man looked at my face, said, "I know you somewhere." I said, "Where?" "I don't think I recognize this face." And he said, "Have you been to Cameroon?" I said, "Yes, we were in Cameroon for almost 7 years." He told me, "Do you remember Sister Nadia that used to bring the street boys to church for you to teach them in Sunday school?" I said, "Yes." He told me I was one of the street boys that you were teaching then. But look at me in Canada today. "Thank you, ma'am." He hugged me and said, "Thank you, ma'am. You are one of the people that shaped my life." So my story keep going. That's like according to my title, the vision for future. So I'm seeing the future in what I'm doing right here. So that was what I look at it. I look at it that, okay, I need to do my own thing different now. With the background of therapeutic recreation and the ECE, I took it to my classroom because I have other children from Sri Lanka in my room, from Ukraine in my room. And while I was moving on with my husband, I got to learn a little bit of French, a little bit of Portuguese, and a little bit of many languages. So getting to my room, which I'm going to present all the things I've been doing in my room. I thank you, SNL, especially for the loose parts. I make use of that loose part in my room, and all the children, they want to come to my room to see pictures, to see how I transform the dramatic area, the block area. Every area has a touch of my work, which I'm going to present. Okay, this one is when we were teaching, I was teaching them the community service, and we were doing firefighter, and we took it to the playground. This is a house in a playground area that we took the construction papers to make a fire, and we make our own fire extinguisher ourselves, and the children were taking off fire in the playground. Okay, this is another one in the dramatic area that we turn the area into grocery store. So the loose part, we ask the children to bring whatever they've used in their house. You can see the toothpaste box, so many boxes, the cereal boxes, and the cookies boxes, and the children were so happy. You can see we have the trolley there. We have the cats for them. They were buying, they were selling. We printed some money and we laminated them for them. So they were happy to have this in the corner of the dramatic area. And this is still the fire. You can see on the floor, we have the fire extinguisher with the loose part too. I have the water bottle here that will fill with color and with some clips on them to make the fire extinguisher for them. And you see the hat on the floor. So the children are stopping and dropping, and they are rolling to put up the fire. And this is still the fire. I put effort on having props in my room. Every topic, every team, I have props for it, which the children are looking up to every morning. Every Monday, what are we doing today? And it makes the teaching so easy for them, because when they see the picture, especially those who cannot even speak English among them, when they see the picture, they say it in their language, and before you know it, they are speaking English. And this is the time where I'm teaching them the restaurant. I have the prop for pizza oven. So they were so happy because it's what the children loves, and they can see it in the traumatic area too. They were so happy to make pizza. They sit on the table, they were eating pizza and doing all sorts of things with it. And the other one, to the left side, I have the ice cream shop that I made for them, also in the dramatic area. So they sell ice cream to themselves. Even when the ice cream truck came to our center, they know what they are expecting. They know all the flavor they want because they've been practicing it inside the room. So I have the other one, the popcorn. When we are doing movie, we have popcorn stand there, machine. So they see the popcorn, they want to do this, they want to, and to keep going, when we were doing the animals, the farm animals, you can see in the middle, I have a coop there that they were playing with. And when we were doing what they call this, or Saint Patrick. You can see my props for Saint Patrick's. And when we were doing the community helper, we invited the nurse. So we were able to teach them about the bones. So the children know how many bones in the arms, which is 54, and they know how many bones in the leg, which is 52, and throughout the body. Those three, they know it is always on their head. And moving on, when I was teaching them Arctic animals, you can see the pictures. So I start from the beginning, from the life cycle of each animal. We have the penguin, we have the seal, and the polar bear. You see, we start with it for all of them, and they know what that is. Then we end up making igloo together. You can see the igloo where the animal reside after the winter. So we made it together. It was a joint effort for us all to do it together. We use during transportation. I use milk boxes to make school bus. You can see school bus on the screen. So we're making that for them. They're so happy. Let me just to conclude, during this community helpers, we invited the nurse. The nurse came in to give the children some presentation, and you can see in that picture, I was dressed up as if I'm going into the labor room or the theater room. So the nurse dressed me up. They were so happy. And my partner was together with me. And the last one to show here was when we invited the police officer. The police officer was there, and the police officer was trying to handcuff me here to show the children. And the children were saying, "Oh, Miss B is not a criminal." They were crying. So we told them that we are just showing them what the police officer does. And the last one, to complete the community helper, I took the children on field trips to public library, where I made them the library cards hang on their neck, and they were so happy. They went to the library and were able to teach them what library takes, what it looked like. So to cap my story off, that is what I do all the time, and I'm always looking for a day to teach these children because we are learning together. I'm learning from them, they are learning from me. I'm so happy to be able to be honored to come out today to share my story. It pleases my heart. I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Thank you to the SNL. I'm so happy. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Thank you, Omabosola, and thank you so much for sharing photos of your practice. I think it brings really things to life, so we appreciate you doing that, and thanks for rolling with it as well, with the sharing. That was a great strategy to use. So we have two storytellers remaining, and I'm going to keep us moving along. Welcome to the stage. We have Anudeep, who has a story titled "The Loop of Learning," a story of hope and hopes and inspirations. And Anu has a special place in my heart as she is an ECE at the Child Study Center here at Mount St. Vincent University. So Anu, please feel free to take the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. I welcome everyone on board here in this presentation about the loop of learning, which is my story. Your presence is really valued. I'm Anu, and my full name is Anudeep Makkar. I work at the Child Study Center at Mount St. Vincent University. I teach preschoolers. The title of my story is The Loop of Learning, a story of hopes and aspirations. And to put this loop into perspective, I'll give you a little bit of a context of how my journey of immigration started. And way back in 2019, right before the COVID pandemic, I underwent a personal reflection, and I was, thinking about my own practice as an early childhood educator, my image of the child, and my views on play pedagogy. I did attend a few workshops based on Reggio Emilia philosophy back in New Delhi, from where I am, New Delhi, India. And I had also attended a few courses on emergent curriculum then. And in 2020, I moved to Canada amidst the pandemic with my family to the beautiful province of Nova Scotia. And as you all know, that immigration comes with its own fears and inhibitions, and I had my own about starting afresh with children and my husband. When I first came here, I realized that ECE was a licensed profession in this part of the world. I did my research online because we were living in a virtual world literally then, and I really wanted to see that how it all happened and what I needed to get a level or classification. I went on the website of Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, and it had clearly laid out requirements for internationally educated early childhood educators. And I realized that I did have a lot of good, valid paperwork and documents, but I still didn't have enough, like my course descriptions and words from my professor, or something written in detail from the university, because back in India, we're more about marks and grades, and that's all I had, and less about hours spent on different courses. At this point, I started looking, again, making constructive use of the internet. I started looking for bridging programs, if there were any. That is when I discovered that there was a recognized prior learning program that experienced ECEs could take. It could be taken through the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Nova Scotia. And I wanted to take this exam-based program to get a good level. That was my priority at that time, because I realized that I wouldn't be able to apply for early childhood education jobs without having a classification in Nova Scotia. I did get my mentorship and coaching from the Pathways to Prosperity program, and they do still provide it for newcomer experienced educators who want to do this written and interview-based exam program. And Pathways to Prosperity is a partnership alliance that helps integrate migrants into Canada. So this really helped me, and I wish that this program would have led right up to level 3 for experienced ECs without having to do a full diploma or undergrad program. But level 2 was good enough for me too. And today, I'm so glad that there are so many government-funded programs available for newcomers and early childhood educators who are working in the field and want to upgrade their level. And as compared to when I was new in the country, these programs are more widely circulated and delivered. So, that makes me so happy for all my fellow ECEs. The other part of my journey that I was figuring out was trying to understand about, the foundations and principles of early learning practices in Nova Scotia. That is when I discovered about the early learning curriculum framework, and I started reading it, and I wanted to know more about it because it was still fairly a new document then in 2020. I registered myself at the Mount for module training workshops. It gave me insight into the best practices, the approaches, the philosophies of early childhood education. And, I was so happy to learn that there was place for diversity. There was place for, different voices in the framework. And I was very happy to read in detail about the emergent curriculum, and it helped me, reflect on my practice. And I felt ready to apply for jobs. And I did have some paperwork, which enabled me to start applying for jobs. I applied in the school system, in the pre-primary and the Child Study Center at the Mount. I was hoping to hear from them, from the Child Study Center, but that didn't happen for a long time. And one fine morning, I just gathered all my precious paperwork, printed out my resume, and gathered the courage to walk up to the Child Study Center. I met Annette Camus there, who's also my director, and I handed over my paperwork. She called me the next day, and she interviewed me briefly, asked me to start subbing. I said yes, and the rest, as they say, is history. I'm enjoying my work, and I feel really blessed to have learned from the experts in the field, like Liz Hicks and Annette Camus. They have been my mentors. And I feel that in the field of early childhood education, sometimes you have to be the first partaker of some things that you really believe in. Like Cynthia said, you have to find your own voice. And I don't think we all as a community can ever say that I've done it all, I've learned it all, I've said it all. So there is always scope for more learning, which I believe is so true. So whatever came my way, I put myself out there. And this is my message to all early childhood educators who are trying to figure out their pathway here. Just put yourself out and try building connections with the practicing community. That really helps. And I think that is what helped me. And I'm blessed to be working with a very good team of early childhood educators at the Mount. Whatever came my way, whether it was something related to participating in the research projects happening at the Mount, or it was an opportunity to visit beautiful centers across the province, I grabbed every opportunity and tried to learn something new because I wanted to keep my loop going. And I'm really, really thankful to Jessie Lee and Early Childhood Collaborative Research Center for giving us so many opportunities to learn and opening pathways for newcomer families, educators, and children. I believe that I have found my voice here and a little piece of home. And I wish everybody does, every newcomer does find a little piece of home in their community or workplace. Currently, I'm learning about social emotional development and learning in children and trying to promote social emotional competence in young children through pyramid model practices. I think that has changed my lens and that has made me put the trust back into children's ability. I'm really enjoying this phase. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Anu. Thank you so much for that beautiful story and sharing your experiences. Wonderful. Okay, we have one last storyteller with us. All right, so we have Amanpreet, who's here with us, located currently in Prince Edward Island. Her story title is Together We Can Do Great Things. Amanpreet will tell you a bit about her training and experience, but she was in Montreal before she moved to PEI and currently works at Little Blessings Childcare, supporting children's growth and development. So, Amanpreet, you have the floor.
Yes. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Amanpreet Kaur, and I graduated from high school in India and moved to Canada in 2019 and completed my early childhood education at the CDI College, Montreal. And after 3 years, I really relocated to Prince Edward Island, and now I'm working at Little Blessing Childcare Center in PEI. And my today's story topic is Together We Can Do Great Things, which is inspired me by the Mother Teresa. It's all started when I was like in a childhood. When I was in the high school in 2008, my parents decided to leave their home country due to family issues. And when I was 9 years old, me and my sister had to live with my grandparents. And my grandparents helped us a lot help us cooking the food for us and getting ready to school. And my grandma teach me a lot of countless things and how to do laundry, clean, and cook, because it wasn't easy to live like without like a mother in India at that time, and I was just only like 10 years old. And when I was in high school, we had a seminar in our school where they talk about orphanage and all the charity about Mother Teresa too. And then they listen the story about Mother Teresa and how she helped poor children and change the world through charity. And at that time, I was also like missing my mom, because the kids around me at the school time, they always talk about what they did with their parents, where they went on vacations and on holidays, what they did. And I always felt like I'm missing something from my childhood, and I wanted to no, I want to feel like how does mother love feel. I only got to talk to my mother once a week because at that time there wasn't like good internet connections at that time. And when I grew up, I started doing all my housework and get ready for school in the morning, but I wasn't really good at studying at that time in high school. And then suddenly my aspiration from Mother Teresa was to like, I also wanted to work in orphanage, like similar as Mother Teresa. Fortunately, after 5 years, my mother did visit us after a period of 5 years. And during that time, she held a really special place in my heart, and she gave us a motherly love and as much she could, and all the like mothers could do for their children. And after graduating, my parents decided to send me to Canada. So I took English classes, and my advisor and my lawyer showed me the list of courses I can take overseas. And I choose to take early childhood education course. And he explained me all about the course, about what it is about and how you're going to do it, how it's going to be in overseas in Canada. And the biggest thing was I was going alone in Canada. There was no one with me, and I was all alone by myself. I was really nervous at that time. Oh, what I'm going to do in Canada? I'm going to be alone. I'm just 19 years old. I don't know what to do, what is waiting ahead, what's going to help in the future, and all this stuff. And but when I came here, I find myself a place to live. And I'm always thankful to my friends who gave me a place and a room and helped me during my ups and downs. And then I started studying at CDI College in Montreal. And at that time, I also worked beside as a part-time job in a restaurant, so I can pay off my fees because we were not, as a background family, was like not enough to provide me enough funds for my fees and college fees, all other stuff. And whenever I was waiting at the bus station during my go to work, there was a daycare right behind the bus station, and I was wondering what is it, because at that time I didn't know like it's a name called daycare for early childhood like children's. And I always go by the window and I try to knock on the window and get the attention from the children, because I love working with the children. And they always looking at me, who's she, why she's knocking on the window? And I was like so happy to see their faces. And yeah, then I completed my internship and I got my placement in Montreal too for 3 months. At first month, I worked with babies. Then second month, I worked with toddlers. And the third month, I worked with the pre-K. It was a little different in Montreal because it was all French, and I tried really best to learn French. I did learn French, and I learned some songs and rhymes in French too. But after a year, I decided like I don't think so I can make it in here in French. So I decided, I talked with my friends and what should we do? And one of my friends told me, oh, she moved to PEI and she's doing early childhood, working in a daycare. And I was like, okay, let me move too. Then I decided to move to PEI. Then when I came to PEI, and there was a sudden change too, because I almost run out of money too, and I wasn't have enough money to pay off like for the room, and then I had to live with my friend and share the room with my friend, and it took me over a month to find a job. And every day I went for a different daycare to apply my job and give some interviews and did my intern and my resume. Then now, a little bit in childcare center, I'm really thankful to my director Melissa, who hired me in the daycare. Then after a month, I came to know about, as a newcomer to PEI, you have to like apply for your educator license too. And for the first aid license to certificate, currently right now, I'm really happy that I'm working with the kids right now. And during that time, I also decided to leave the career because I wanted to join the army. I almost enlisted myself in the army because I was like, let's go to another field of work, maybe try to do something new, because it wasn't that easy as I think. I was like, I just was like a little depressed too, what's gonna happen in the future. But later, even on the weekends, I was missing something, and it was like, I'm missing the kids right now. I don't think so. If I go join the army, I don't think so I will be able to like get the love from the children, because whenever after a weekend, whenever I came back to daycare in the morning, and every kid will like, oh man, hi, good morning. I miss you so much. I was like, oh yes, I miss you so much too. Then I remember my dream, like working with the kids all the time. And I also work as a SNA with autistic child too. And I'm really looking forward to learn more, and from my coworkers and from the children too, because the things I didn't get opportunity to face in my childhood, and I didn't get like a lot of kids like getting now to these days, and I'm learning a lot of new stuff too. And during my internship, my placement in Montreal, my educator teach my coworker teach me a lot of things. She was the first one who showed me about the daycare, what is a daycare, how do we work in a daycare. They have 4 different areas: traumatic area, science area, block area, writing area, and every different area have different learning objectives. Now I'm happy to be working in here, and as a newcomers, I really want to say, whoever coming to PI for early childhood just to want to let you know to make sure that you applied for your educator license, because when I was a new one, I didn't know about anything about it, about the license. And when I moved to PI, when I started working, then my friends told me, you have to apply for your educator license. You have to have first aid certificate and police check clearance, all that stuff. And yeah, and now I already got my permanent residency this year. And the rules changed too in PI too. And now if you want to come to PI and apply for a job as an educator, and if you are moving here for the permanent residency, and make sure you got like AIP, what is called Atlantic Immigration Province provide in daycare. So it will be easy for you to help in immigration system and permanent residency. Thanks. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanpreet. And we can hear things happening in the background of where you are.
Oh,
So
yes.
thank you.
I'm in a
No,
daycare right now.
hey, that's the way I love it. I love hearing the voices in the background. And thank you so much for finding a quiet space to chat with us today.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much to all the storytellers for sharing your journey. I'm just going to share my slides again and take everyone through the next phase of our time together. All right, so it's time for questions. So thank you again for providing such diverse and meaningful stories. I think what I heard across the stories that were shared were connections and your journeys, but also unique loops, as Anu said, in the experiences that you all had. And I also really loved was the unique ways that you all chose to tell your stories and the aspects that you wanted to bring attention to. The passion in your work in early childhood is so clear and brings me so much joy and optimism for our work together in early childhood. So now is the time for questions. You are welcome to put some questions in chat. We'll be monitoring that. You can use the listening template that we sent along to think about the connections, what stands out. Any questions you have about the individual journeys of our storytellers are also very welcome. We're happy also if you wanted to raise your hand and then unmute yourself to ask the question directly. You are welcome to do that as well. And if there is a lull in questions before anyone it comes to mind, I am happy to jump in and to start the conversation with our storytellers. So I'm going to take down my slide, and then Janice is going to pin all of the storytellers up. You can look at the view at the top in Teams at the speaker mode, which should pin all of us there together. Okay, we're being pinned. And I see Anne Briscom. Thank you so much for the first question. And I see lots of just thanks in the chat as well for folks. So Anne Briscom asks, have you connected and integrated your home culture in the classroom with children, families, and coworkers? So I don't know if anyone wants to take lead. Camila, where you went first, you've maybe been thinking too about some things in your journey. So feel free to, if you wanted to start the conversation about how you've integrated your home culture into the classroom.
Yes, I have some holidays that are very important in Brazil. I brought it here, like Carnaval. That's a moment that it's a big party in my city, Rio de Janeiro, that's spread over the years for the rest of the country, and we wear costumes. So that was not hard to incorporate with the kids because they already like the play part. And with a few of my co-workers, I introduced them to some of the Brazilian delicacies that we have, like pão de queijo, which is a cheese bread. The brand is not mine, but it's sold at Costco in New Brunswick. If you want, it's a big orange package. And that's part of not only our childhood, birthdays, parties, and get-togethers as a snack, but as an adult. So now during winter, that's a really good snack, not only for the part of remembering home, and that's holidays coming soon, but because it's yummy. So that's on my part.
I love that, Camila.
else want to share?
Thank you. Yeah, pan de queso, Camila, I know that one very well. It's so good, recommended to everyone. Thank you for that question. If I could share a very concrete example of how I have incorporated these lenses into my practice, and a project that was ongoing that not only allowed me to bring my own culture or traditions into the classroom, but also open it to other families and other coworkers, was just as simple as put a map in there, right? So starting to have stories about, oh, we had this celebration today back in Chile. You know where Chile it is. Let's take a look at the map. The weather is different right now in Chile because we are at the opposite sides of the globe, right? So here, as it is summer or winter, we have the opposite in there. What happened in other parts of the world was part of the conversations of children, like, I have a friend, and when we call them, it is nighttime in there. Why that happened? Same reason. The map was like a excellent resource to many, many stories and learning around that I'm happy to share with you, because that allow us also to include in our classroom stories from other classrooms, from families, from their own children, and was a beautiful resource. I think that was a part of how one little project started, that was just developing into growing and growing in topics and themes. That's a never-ending kind of resource to connect not only my culture, but as an invitation for everybody's, right? We all have a culture, whether it's from here or other sides of the world. We all have one, and we share it together.
Thank you, Cynthia. Omobosala, would you like to comment on the question?
Thank you for giving me the chance to comment on that question. For me right now, my partner in my room is a Nigerian like me. And every October 1st, that is our Independence Day in Nigeria. So we usually dress up in green, white, green, and we'll cook our food, which is best known majority in Africa, like jollof rice. And I realized that some parents will come up to me that, do you know I love jollof rice? I love this because it's spicy. So some of the parents who love spicy food, they always come that day that, are you with jollof rice? So, and the children too, we taste it and we celebrate our independence together. And which is a big ceremony in my room. The same thing we did to others who are from Ukraine. We celebrate their Independence Day as well. So I'm in my room now. There are so many flags. I have my flag, Nigerian flag, Sri Lanka flag. I have all the children in my room flag there. So that's the way. And more so, I teach the children how to sing a song like My Head, My Shoulder. My children can sing it forever in my language. So they know that head is Ori, Orimi, Ejika, Okun, Ese. They sing it like no man business. So, and I
Oh,
love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Omobosala. And we
You're
enjoy our
welcome.
jollof rice here as well, with Janice bringing that for
Wow.
us to share.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
You're
Anu,
welcome.
would you like to comment on the question?
Yeah, thank you. I really agree with all the other storytellers. I think food and festivals, the two F's, are very special in everybody's life. These two are very important connection between, I think, every human race. And tomorrow is Diwali, the festival that I
Wow.
celebrate, and also Halloween. And we are doing something at the Child Study Center, and children are pretty excited. So I think celebrating holidays is a wonderful idea. We do have lots and lots of books in our library that we use for teaching children words from all the cultures that are present in our classroom. That's how we respect diversity, and we invite parents sometimes to talk about, if they want to talk about anything about their holidays or anything that's special to their culture. We've had a few music programs that parents have done, and we had Janice cook jollof rice for us in the classroom. I can never forget that.
Oh,
That
wow.
was so beautiful, and children enjoyed it.
Oh.
Janice, thank you.
Thank you so much, Anu. We're looking forward to Diwali tomorrow as well. Manpreet, do you want to comment on the question?
Oh yes, yeah, we are same as like Anu said. We are also celebrating Diwali and Halloween tomorrow because this year Diwali and Halloween fall on the same date, and we also celebrate other culture holidays and all this stuff, and such as Chinese New Year, such as Hanukkah and Sukkot, and last month some of the parents were invited so they can share their holidays about Sukkot and Hanukkah. They read the book with all the children in a daycare, and it was really good to know about other cultures too. So it's really helpful to build a stronger relationship between you, parents, families, and with children too. And for tomorrow, we're gonna bring some diyas for Diwalis and some lights. We already decorate half of our daycare with the decoration of Diwali, and I'm so happy about it. I'm really waiting for tomorrow so we can painting. We're gonna paint the diyas, the lanterns, and we also gonna dress up like Halloween and same as Diwali. I was getting an idea how should we dress like two two things at the same time, and my friend was like making fun of, we should paint our face as Halloween and dress like Diwali. I was like, okay, that would be really great. And we also bring our traditional dress and we put it in the dramatic area. There was the old ones and we put it in the dramatic area, and children were so happy when they see the long stuff such as saris and the colorful beautiful how do we say, like the chunni embroidered stuff with the stones and all the stuff with the thread, beautiful artwork on the suits. And now the children are really happy, and now I'm waiting for tomorrow to celebrate with them. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm just taking a quick look at the chats, and I just want to say there's so much gratitude to you all. One comment, thank you for choosing Canada, and thank you for very much for choosing to work with children and families in our country. Thank you for organizing the beautiful stories that are shared. So there's just so much gratitude in lots of ways that's shared in the chat. There's also a comment about someone from about the use of globes and using that to teach children, to talk to children about the world, that it might not be as common now, but the actual use of the world as a globe, just as a suggestion provided by one person. And I'm just kind of monitoring things. I'm not sure that there's another question, but I do see Kiara has her hand raised. Can always count on Kiara to have a question. So Kiara, we have a few minutes left, so I'll allow you to ask provide your comment and question.
So for Camilla, because you have a big background in communications and have experience working with somebody who's nonverbal, not working, your grandfather was nonverbal. What advice do you have for English speaking ECEs when communicating with folks who English is their additional language? So for example, I used to work at a high school before here, and trying to communicate with folks from Syria, and I don't speak Arabic, was kind of a challenge. So what advice do you have for folks who are, working with those diverse families?
Thank you for your question. I think nowadays the most valuable tool that we have.
We can see it.
Can you see it? It's the cell phone with the Google translation, because that improved a lot.
Yeah.
I use it to have to carry someone over 35 might relate some big dictionaries around for travel, studies, and all of that. But I think today with this, it's very helpful, not just for the language, but for Syria, you can read more about a little bit the country and the situation, because I came to Canada in a totally different situation than someone that came from Syria. I came because I wanted. Some of people from Syria might not have had the choice to choose coming to here. So that's the first step, to learn a little bit about the culture, why they came, and be clear that you want to communicate with them. And if it's not so hard for them to use a digital tool, or sometimes trying to explain, because speaking another language is about not being shameless, but when you don't have the words, being able to explain, sometimes giving an example of the situation, even from a movie or TV series that you know the person could relate to. And yeah, that's how I would do it. So I
Amazing.
hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Camila. And I'll just invite our other storytellers to just chime in. We are coming to the end of our time. So would you like to comment on that question, or any final comments that you have for our participants? Maybe Cynthia, I'll go to you next.
Thank you. Just briefly, because of being mindful of the time, right? So I agree, technology is wonderful nowadays. We can use it in our favor to support communication in different language, and also maybe having there in mind a little bit of empathy, right? Like putting ourselves in the shoes of other folks that maybe are struggling or trying to do their very best to communicate. Yeah, trying to avoid or face the situation with those lenses of empathy, and really try to do our best to be welcoming and support others as much as we can.
Thank you, Cynthia. Omobosolo, any final words?
Okay, my final word, because I have a case like that in my room.
Mm-hmm.
The girl is from Ukraine, but we found out that she doesn't want to change her dress. All the clothes, for every day she wears the same clothes. I have to call the dad, because the other children in the room, they are making jest of her, that why are you wearing the same clothes every day? So I had a talk with the dad, and the dad taught me some simple words that I can use, and that changed a lot. And when I'm mixing it with English, like there is another one from China that does not even hear one word in English.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked the dad, because I need to potty train him. So just tell me the word I will use to send him to the bathroom. And the dad told me, just say yanya, yanya. So every time I will call him, do you want to yanya? He will run to the bathroom. So I learned a little bit of word every day from their parents in order for me to mix with English, so that they will understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Anu?
Yes, to your question, Kiara, I think in our program specifically, we have used assistive technology apps for nonverbal children, and they're really helpful. And it was really exciting to see how the children who could talk were also using the iPads and the technology to talk to children who had no words. The PECs, the picture enabled communication system, and visuals have really changed our outlook and perspective about communication. And our inclusion coordinator is currently doing the American Sign Language course online. It is a very helpful program, and she has made us learn a few signs. And I feel myself very empowered to have that. And it is easy. I started with, simple signs like good morning, how are you, mommy, daddy, and food items. I think that really helps to talking about technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu. Amanpreet?
Me too. I try to learn different languages because whenever some new kids come, the one kid who speaks Spanish, Chinese, or Italian or Russian, some other different languages, I always try to learn their little bit of the language. Most of the we have coworkers here who are from China, and who's from Spanish, who speaks Spanish from Colombia. And I told them, can you please teach me a little of your words so I can help. It's gonna help me to understand child what they're saying, like basic words such as hello, I want to, can I have water, I want to use a bathroom. So I learned a lot of other language too, and the simple basic phrases too, so it will be help and gonna build my and gonna make a strong relationship with other children. Even sometime when parents come to pick them up, and most of the time the parents who's not able to speak English as much as they can, so I try to talk in Chinese sometime, in Spanish sometime. I do my best, but sometime in the end I have to use a translator too. So yes,
Thank
it's just
you.
gonna be the little understanding with you and between the parents when
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about it. Yes. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you. Thank
all.
you so much.
And finally, just a huge thank you to our storytellers for today. And thank you to you all for attending the session. We are so grateful for your time and our continued work together in supporting equity in early childhood.